This is Kyle McEntee, Law School Transparency's Executive Director. I'm here today with Derek Tokaz, one of I'm the Law's hosts. We'll be taking a look back at our archives and talking about 3 episodes. This episode is brought to you by BarBri Law Preview. They have a great scholarship for 1L starting this fall. If you go to lawgiveaway.com, you can fill out an application and see the rules. The deadline for this is April 15th. So far, we've released 37 episodes, each one profiling a different lawyer.
Our goal really is to help people who are either in law school now or are thinking about law school get a better idea of what their career aims really mean. I know a lot of people go into law school with sort of vague ideas of they want to do litigation or they want to do family law, they want to do corporate law. And you might have some ideas of what that entails, but not a great idea of the day-to-day operations of each of those careers. And so we're trying to really fill in those gaps. What do the career paths look like? What's it like to be in the job? What are the things that you don't hear from your professors? And just add that sort of qualitative element to the quantitative data that has been collected for a little while.
For any of you listeners out there who are not subscribed already, you can subscribe on iTunes, your favorite podcatcher app, or you can just listen at lstradio.com. And one other kind of housekeeping note, reviews and ratings on iTunes really help us. So if you can go and review us and rate us, would be really appreciative.
And Kyle will send you $5. Just email his address to 123 Fake Street at internet.com.
So, Derek, the first episode we're going to look at is about e-discovery. This is episode number 9, and it features Nat Cromer, who is a Pitt grad, and today he is managing a 70-person e-discovery team for Wilmer Hale, which is one of the largest firms in the country. Now, he actually manages this team in Dayton, Ohio. The interesting thing about this episode is it really gives an insight into how the business of law is changing and how technology has forever changed litigation. So he gives a nice overview of discovery, the changes from, when he started, they looked at bankers' boxes and they'd go through all the documents.
I remember those.
Do you really?
I had an allergic reaction to, I guess, the ink from whatever photocopier was being used, and my hands broke out into hives. We had been doing electronic document review for a while, and for some reason, one of these sets of documents came in paper copies, and that did not go very well for me. I had to just keep my hands under a sink of cold water for a while because it was just like my hands were burning.
And that's kind of piling on top of the document review work that people generally dislike.
It already hurts just without the allergic reaction to the ink, but you add that in and it just gets really bad. Your mileage may vary. Probably will vary.
I think the cool thing about this episode is that it really gives an overview of the document review world, from the contract attorneys who toil away for many hours, 6 weeks at a time, and then go another 6 weeks or longer before they get their next gig, to the in-firm document review, which is what you did, Derek. And then also this new idea of, why don't we just combine the two and have a team that exclusively does document review work? That way they can get really good at it, and we can get employees who this just fits their needs, their life needs.
Yeah, and this is an area that I think is going to see a lot of change, especially as one of the big areas is search engine optimization, which means a whole different thing to internet people. But no, search engines being able to read through the documents better to, pick out most relevant documents and sort of automating the review process. It's one of the areas where technology is going to play a big impact in the next 5 to 10 years, and has already played a pretty big impact now. Just, going from paper document review to electronic document review.
Right. And the interesting thing about the evolution between paper to electronic, it's because the volume is just so great now. It's because now text messages, emails, chats, Facebook, anything you're doing on your work computer is subject to discovery. And so that includes emails and all the documents and all the contracts and just everything. And this accumulates quickly, and in litigation, someone's got to look at it.
Yeah, and it also merges your professional life and your personal life. You think about all the personal emails you've sent from your professional account, a lot of that stuff gets wrapped up into DocuReview, and there's people that have to go in and be like, well, you booked your vacation through your professional account. We have to go in and redact your credit card information and just read through all of this stuff because those two worlds are now merged in that way.
So next up, let's talk about episode number 21. This is an episode where we profiled Ryan Morrison, who is a 2013 graduate of New York Law School. He started his own firm right out of law school, and he used a pretty distinct strategy. His firm is based around his clients as opposed to his practice area. And what that means is that he has gone out and found a niche, and he does full service for video game developers, from intellectual property to contract negotiation, sometimes even immigration. And Derek, you actually found him on Reddit, right?
That sounds correct. That sounds like something I would have done on Reddit, yes.
A few days after he got licensed, Candy Crush, everyone's favorite game on Facebook.
And by favorite, we also mean least favorite, depending on which side of this controversy you're on.
Yeah. So they tried to trademark the word saga, and saga is a Nordic word that goes way back, and you shouldn't be able to trademark that word and leverage that to stop other people from naming their games anything saga.
Yeah, and it was Candy Crush Saga.
Right, exactly. Yeah. And so that's kind of how he first cemented his place in the video game legal world. And now he does a Q&A session with video game developers to help them understand their legal rights and risks. And he uses that as a way to generate business.
Right. He got his start through talking about the issues on Reddit with people and generating his business through that means. If I recall correctly, which is a common phrase that everybody on Reddit will recognize.
IIRC.
Yeah, IIRC. Along with, I'm not a lawyer.
So,
LOL.
Ryan's practice has really kind of blown up in a positive way, because he just continues to do good work. And what he manages to do is really understand his clients. And he admits it's because he's a self-identified nerd. He worked on games in the past, did the back-end coding and all that kind of good stuff. And it's really helped him understand what it is that video game developers generally do not like about lawyers. And by understanding their wants and their needs and what bothers them, he's able to tailor a really high-quality service that allows him to continue to bring in business.
Right. And I think this highlights that there's sort of two different approaches to establishing a practice. And one of which is to become very, very good at a specific skill. So, you can become very good at contract law or certain litigation issues. And the other idea is to become more of a jack of all trades, but with an industry specialization. And so he is specialized in this niche industry, but he does a lot of different kinds of work within that industry.
Next up, we have our last one. This is episode number 27, and it is Justin Bloom, who is a 1996 graduate of Tulane Law School. So he went to law school to right environmental wrongs. I think a lot of our listeners can relate to that, whether it's the environment or some other issue they're really passionate about. A lot of people view law school as a path to furthering whatever issue they want. And for a lot of people, they do manage to do that. But Justin's had a really meandering, difficult career path over the last 20 years. So today he actually runs a small nonprofit that does environmental protection for the Sun Coast in Florida. But because it's not bringing in enough money, he has to practice law on the side, which he'd prefer not to do. And this kind of, to me, it kind of hits home for me running law school transparency. I've, over the years, had to find other sources of income because it's difficult to run a startup nonprofit. That's just what you have to do sometimes.
Yeah, this is one of the things that I think the podcast really highlights. I know LST sometimes gets a reputation for being, sort of doom and gloom on the industry, but at times, there is a little bit of doom and a little bit of gloom. I think we try not to be too pessimistic, but we try to give, sort of a realistic picture. It's really easy to go into law school with, a dream of, like, I really love video games and I want to practice video game law and I'm going to go be the video game lawyer. Or much more commonly, I think, is people that want to go into an area like environmental law or looking at issues like political issues are things that, people get really passionate about. And what our show does is try to highlight, here's what it actually looks like to be a lawyer in this field. And it's not with the intent to discourage people. It's with the intent to say, like, this is what you need to know you're getting into. And if that's right for you, fantastic. Because really, at the end of the day, what we're trying to do is pair people with the fields that are right for them. Some people strive in that sort of adversity where the more you kick them down, the harder they're going to work. Some people like fields that are, more secure and more regular hours and maybe more confrontational or less confrontational. And what we're trying to get at is sort of like, what does it actually feel like to be in each one of these industries? Because, and we're not in any position to say what's right or wrong for each individual person. We want to tell you what the fields are like, and then you can decide for yourself whether that's what you want to go to.
Thank you to ShouldIBeALawyer.com for sponsoring this episode. Thank you also to top-law-schools.com.
I Am the Law is produced by Law School Transparency for LST Radio. If you want to hear more, you can subscribe to our podcast on iTunes or go to lstradio.com.